Welcome back. Please like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Welcome back to the Capitol Connect, everyone. Jamie, we've got some fascinating news out of Washington today that might surprise some listeners.
Absolutely, Alex. We're seeing a really notable trend, a growing pushback from the Republican-controlled Congress against President Trump's policies. It's quite the development.
Right? It seems even within his own party, there's a desire for more independence. Where are we seeing this most clearly?
Well, first up, defense spending and immigration. Congress recently worked across party lines to restrict the Trump administration's ability to use military bases, like Joint-based McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst, for detaining or deporting immigrants.
Wow. So they're saying military bases are for defense, not immigration enforcement. That's a pretty clear message.
Exactly. And it goes beyond that. Congress is also moving to curb President Trump's war powers, especially with the tensions rising with Venezuela.
That's a big one. What exactly are they doing there?
The new military bill, which is expected to pass, includes provisions to scrap two older authorizations from 1991 and 2002. These could allow a president to start military operations without explicit new approval from Congress. It's Congress trying to reassert its constitutional role.
So essentially, they want to make sure they have a say in matters of war and peace, rather than leaving it solely to the president. That's a significant power move.
It really is. And on the domestic front, the House of Representatives voted to nullify a Trump executive order that aimed to end union rights at federal agencies.
And get this, several Republican representatives actually voted with Democrats on that. That shows a real willingness to cross party lines on workers' rights.
It certainly does, Alex. These instances collectively point to a more assertive Congress. Even though both chambers and the White House are Republican, it signals a potential shift in power.
You know, it's particularly interesting given President Trump's job approval ratings have recently dipped to 36%. Could that be playing a role in this growing assertiveness?
Absolutely, it's hard to ignore. A lower approval rating often emboldens lawmakers to act more independently. It'll be fascinating to see how this plays out in the coming months.
Definitely one to watch. Thanks, Jamie. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Policy Pulse, your weekly dive into what's happening in Washington. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. We have some really significant news today, Alex, right out of the gate after President Trump's second inauguration. It's all about healthcare policy.
Absolutely, Jamie. On Inauguration Day itself, President Trump signed an executive order that immediately started rolling back several key healthcare policies. These were policies put in place by the previous Biden administration.
Right, and specifically, this order targeted initiatives that were designed to reduce prescription drug costs for people on Medicare and Medicaid. So that's a big deal for a lot of folks. He also aimed to dismantle aspects of the Affordable Care Act and reduce protections for Medicaid enrollees.
Exactly. Now, it's interesting because not everything was touched. For example, Medicare drug negotiation under the Inflation Reduction Act and the annual out-of-pocket cap on Part D prescription drugs, those actually remained untouched.
That's a crucial point, Alex. So while it's not a complete reversal of every single policy, it definitely signals a broader shift, doesn't it? A new direction for federal healthcare strategy.
Absolutely. And that wasn't the only major healthcare news this past week. Following that executive order, the House of Representatives narrowly passed a new budget resolution, one that President Trump fully endorsed.
And this resolution, wow, it included some pretty deep and significant cuts to Medicaid funding. We're talking about proposing to reduce approximately $880 billion from Medicaid and other health programs over the next decade. That's a huge number.
It really is, Jamie. And the stated goal behind these sweeping cuts? To finance significant tax reductions and also to help facilitate an increase in the country's debt limit.
You know, even with that goal, there was actually quite a bit of internal pushback from some Republicans. They voiced concerns about how such substantial cuts would impact millions of low-income citizens, and importantly, children who rely so heavily on Medicaid for their care.
Right, so it wasn't a unanimous decision, even within his own party. It really highlights the friction we're seeing. And when we look at the big picture for 2025, it feels like a very turbulent year for American healthcare policy.
It truly does. These governmental decisions, both the executive order and the budget resolution, are profoundly impacting access to care for millions. It looks like we're heading towards increased barriers for many patients.
Yeah, it really underscores this ongoing tension between public health needs and political power. It's a clear agenda to reshape the federal government's role in healthcare provision and affordability, and we'll certainly be watching how it unfolds.
Definitely. Stay tuned for more updates on Policy Pulse.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Pulse. Jamie, you will not believe what's making headlines today. It's a real clash of history and, well, ballroom dancing maybe.
Oh, I'm ready for that, Alex. Give me the scoop. What's stirring up the news?
All right, get this. The National Trust for Historic Preservation has just filed a pretty significant lawsuit. They are directly challenging President Trump over plans for a new ballroom construction.
Wow, a lawsuit over a ballroom? That certainly sounds intriguing. So what exactly is the core issue here? What's their main concern?
Exactly. The National Trust wants to halt this construction. They're arguing that this proposed new ballroom could potentially violate regulations related to historic preservation. They're basically worried it might compromise the integrity or the designated status of a historically significant site.
Ah, I see. So it's not just about building something new, it's specifically about where it's being built and its potential impact on a historical location. And to be fair, these kinds of legal battles aren't entirely uncommon, are they? Especially when high-profile figures undertake projects on properties that have historical importance.
Absolutely, Jamie. You hit the nail on the head. This really underscores that ongoing tension we often see between new development projects and the crucial need to preserve our cultural heritage. The National Trust, by taking this legal action, is clearly showing just how committed they are to upholding these preservation standards, even when it involves someone as powerful as President Trump.
Right. And for our listeners, when we say integrity, we're essentially talking about keeping the original character and historical value of a place intact, right? So this isn't just a small local issue, is it?
You're spot on, Jamie. This case could actually set a really important precedent. It's essentially asking a big question. Where do private development rights, even those of a sitting president, stand when they're challenged by the protective mandates of historic preservation organizations? It's a huge question with national implications.
That really is a big deal. So beyond just President Trump's specific development plans, the outcome of this lawsuit could have much broader implications for historical preservation efforts across the entire country, couldn't it?
Precisely. It brings that age-old debate right to the forefront. How do we balance private property rights and economic interests with the collective value of protecting our historical landmarks and architectural heritage for future generations? It's definitely a tricky tightrope walk.
Absolutely. Well, I'll be watching this one very closely to see how it unfolds. Fascinating stuff, Alex.
Definitely. A ballroom battle for the ages indeed. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to Political Pulse Check. Jamie, have you seen the latest move from President Trump? It's really raised some eyebrows in Washington and beyond.
Oh, Alex, you mean the pardon? Absolutely. President Trump pardoning Democratic Representative Henry Queller? That really threw a curveball, didn't it?
Totally. Especially when you consider the context. Republicans, particularly in Texas, were actively trying to unseat Queller. They even redrew his district to make it harder for him to win.
Right. And his indictment was a huge talking point for them. They really thought this was their chance to get him out. So for President Trump to step in and pardon him? Wow, talk about a surprise.
Exactly. Local Republicans are apparently furious. They were banking on justice being served, hoping his political career would just end. This must feel like a complete betrayal to them.
It sounds like it. And the timing, Alex, it's just so interesting. Everyone's trying to figure out President Trump's motive here, you know?
Some observers thought President Trump might have expected Queller, who's known as a more conservative Democrat, to switch parties after receiving clemency, like a political trade-off.
That makes sense in a Trumpian way, right? But then Queller just went ahead and filed for re-election as a Democrat. Talk about a plot twist.
Yep, and President Trump was not happy about that, apparently ranting about it on Truth Social. It seems that expectation was totally unfounded.
So it looks like a miscalculation on President Trump's part, which further complicates things for local Republicans who had already pinned their hopes on that indictment as a campaign advantage.
Right. Now they're left in a really awkward spot. It's almost like this pardon has energized both sides, but for different reasons.
Exactly. Democrats might feel emboldened by Queller's continued presence. But on the flip side, some Republicans could use this as a rallying cry, feeling betrayed and using it to galvanize their base against Queller.
It really shows the unpredictable nature of President Trump's political decisions, doesn't it? His moves always have these far-reaching effects, both locally and nationally.
Absolutely. It's never boring, that's for sure. It definitely makes for some fascinating political chess.
Indeed. And that wraps up this edition of Political Pulse Check. Thanks for joining us, Jamie.
Always a pleasure, Alex.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Pulse. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Alex, we're starting today with truly heartbreaking news from Australia.
Absolutely, Jamie. Sunday evening saw a horrific terror attack at Bondi Beach in Sydney. It's devastating. 2 gunmen opened fire on a large crowd gathered for a Hanukkah celebration, Chanukah by the sea.
It's just unthinkable, isn't it? 16 innocent lives were tragically lost, and dozens more injured. This kind of senseless violence really shakes you to your core, you know?
It absolutely does. And the shockwaves from this event have been felt globally. Major cities worldwide, like London, Berlin, and New York, are stepping up security protocols.
Right, especially for upcoming Hanukkah events and other public gatherings. It's a stark reminder of the ongoing threat of terrorism and how vulnerable public spaces can feel.
Exactly. And President Trump addressed the weekend's violence, expressing deep sorrow for the lives lost. He mentioned the Bondi attack, a shooting in Rhode Island, and an ambush in Syria.
Yes, and the Bondi incident has been officially declared a terrorist act, which naturally intensifies international efforts to prevent anything similar from happening again.
Absolutely. And it's not just big cities reacting. New Zealand, for example, has been very proactive. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon has assured increased security for their Jewish community.
That's so important, Alex. They're coordinating extra patrols with police and Jewish community leaders. It's a really swift, targeted response.
Definitely. Luxon even reached out to Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to offer condolences and support, showing strong international solidarity in tough times.
It truly highlights that even with such profound sorrow and senseless violence, communities and leaders globally are uniting. It's about recognizing vulnerability, but also committing to protect citizens.
Well said, Jamie. Our deepest thoughts are with everyone affected by this terrible event. We'll keep you updated. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Tech Talk. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. We've got some pretty big and, frankly, quite sad news from the tech world today, haven't we, Alex?
Absolutely, Jamie. It's a story that really makes you go, wow, even they can fall. We're talking about iRobot, the company behind the iconic Roomba robot vacuum, which has just filed for bankruptcy.
Can you believe it? For so long, Roomba was synonymous with robot vacuums. They were the pioneer, the market leader. I mean, my parents still call any robot vacuum a Roomba.
Right? It's like Kleenex for tissues. And get this, at its peak during the pandemic, iRobot was valued at a whopping $3.5 billion. So what went wrong? And how did it happen so fast?
Well, it wasn't just one thing, but a perfect storm, really. A huge factor was the fierce competition. The market just got absolutely flooded with cheaper alternatives.
Oh, definitely. We've seen Chinese manufacturers especially just pouring into the market. They've been incredibly innovative, often with vertically integrated supply chains, making their products much more affordable.
Exactly. They could bundle premium features that iRobot offered, but at significantly lower price points. It became incredibly difficult for iRobot to compete on cost, even with their strong brand.
And that brings us to the other major challenge, global trade policies, specifically import duties. A significant chunk of iRobot's devices for the U.S. market are actually manufactured in Vietnam.
And here's where it really hit them hard. Those devices were subjected to a 46% import duty. Can you imagine? Almost half the product's cost just added on before it even gets to the consumer?
It's absolutely brutal. The company actually reported that these tariffs alone added an unsustainable $23 million to their expenses this year. That's a massive burden for any business, let alone one already operating at a loss.
And this is where we really see the impact of President Trump's broader trade policies. These duties, while aimed at shifting manufacturing or balancing trade, clearly had a devastating effect on companies like iRobot, caught in the middle.
Exactly. For a company already struggling with fierce market competition, an extra $23 million in duties just made it an unsurmountable hurdle. It's a stark reminder of the cutthroat nature of the consumer tech market.
It really is. It shows that even with innovation and strong brand recognition, you need incredible adaptability and agile supply chain management to survive in this volatile global economy.
A sobering thought indeed. The Roomba story is a powerful lesson for us all. That's all the time we have for today, folks.
Welcome back to Future Forward, everyone. Jamie, have you been thinking about the future this week? Because Canada sure has, with a massive investment in something that sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie.
I have, Alex, and this is huge news. We're talking about quantum computing.
Canada just launched Phase 1 of its Canadian Quantum Champions Program, or CQCP. And guess what? They're putting serious money into it.
Serious money indeed. The initial investment is up to $92 million, which is just the beginning. This is part of a larger 5-year commitment outlined in Budget 2025, totaling a whopping $334.3 million. The main goal? To keep Canada's brightest quantum minds and companies right there at home. No brain drain, you know?
Exactly. They want to make sure Canada maintains its competitive edge in this incredibly transformative field. And what are they building? Fault-tolerant, industrial-scale quantum computers. These aren't just for theoretical science. They're designed to solve complex, real-world problems across diverse industries.
Wow. And they've already got 4 Canadian-headquartered firms on board for this first phase: Anyon Systems, Nord Quantic, Photonic, and Xanadu Quantum Technologies. Each company could receive up to $23 million to speed up their development, focusing on creating quantum computers with real-world industrial applications. It's not just about the science, it's about practical use.
It really is. And it goes beyond just innovation in economics. Minister Evan Solomon highlighted the national security and economic resilience aspects. Quantum computing has significant defense applications, and it could even change how we secure information, potentially undermining current encryption systems while also enabling new, incredibly secure communication.
That's a critical point, Jamie. It's fascinating because while we often hear about the tech race from major players and leaders like President Trump, Canada is really making a strategic move here to be independent and secure its own future. They want to reduce reliance on foreign technologies, which is a smart play. It's about ensuring Canada's economic and national security benefits from these advancements for decades to come.
Absolutely. It's about self-reliance and making sure these incredible advancements benefit all Canadians. A truly forward-thinking investment for Canada, don't you think?
Definitely. A quantum leap, if you will. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Market Pulse. Jamie, we've got some significant market chatter from Asia this week, haven't we?
Absolutely, Alex. It's been quite a tumultuous ride for Asian stock markets. We're seeing some pretty notable losses, especially in key regions like Japan's Nikkei 225 and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index.
Right, and it feels like a bit of a ripple effect from what we've been seeing on Wall Street, doesn't it? The big question for our listeners is, what's really driving this downturn?
Well, a major factor seems to be a significant sell-off by hedge funds. They've been aggressively pulling out of the technology sector, specifically because of growing worries about something many are calling an AI bubble.
An AI bubble? So if I understand correctly, that means people are concerned that valuations for tech companies, especially those related to artificial intelligence, might be getting a bit too high, maybe not fully matching their actual earnings or future potential.
Exactly, Alex. You've hit the nail on the head. Goldman Sachs actually reported that these savvy hedge funds had been actively selling off Hong Kong and Japanese stocks in the week leading up to this, almost as if they presciently anticipated the market's downward trajectory. Pretty clever, right?
Wow, that's some serious foresight. So they saw the writing on the wall. But it's not just the AI bubble fears, is it? I also heard some buzz about the Bank of Japan, too.
You're absolutely right. Another big piece of the puzzle is the anticipation of an interest rate hike from the Bank of Japan, which is expected later this week. When central banks like the BOJ raise rates, it generally makes borrowing more expensive, and that often prompts investors to become much more cautious, especially with those high-growth tech companies.
That makes perfect sense. So investors are essentially reevaluating their positions and shifting their money around quite a bit?
Precisely. We're seeing a clear move away from technology and consumer stocks. Instead, investors are putting their capital into other sectors like industrials, financials, and even basic materials. The Philadelphia C Semiconductor Index, which is a key barometer for the tech sector, dropped more than 5%. That really highlights this broad retreat from tech.
That's a huge drop, Jamie, really underscoring a shift. And what about China and Hong Kong specifically? Were there any other unique headwinds they faced?
Yes, absolutely. On top of everything else, China and Hong Kong stocks have also been dealing with a series of less than stellar economic data lately. Plus, there are those mounting default risks from major property developers like Vanke, which definitely added to the cautious sentiment.
So it's a complex cocktail of global tech concerns, significant central bank monetary policy shifts, and specific regional economic challenges. Sounds like a lot for investors to navigate right now.
It truly is, Alex.
It just goes to show how interconnected these global markets are and how quickly things can evolve. It's definitely a period of significant volatility as investors try to recalibrate their strategies.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Market Buzz. Jamie, we've got some really exciting news from the financial world today, especially if you're into big tech and even bigger rockets.
You got that right, Alex. It's been a stellar year for the New York Stock Exchange, or NYSE. They've just announced that they listed 7 out of the 10 largest initial public offerings, or IPOs, of 2025. That's huge.
It really is. For our listeners, an IPO is when a private company decides to sell shares of its stock to the public for the very first time. It's a massive step for any company, and the NYSE clearly attracted the biggest players. We're talking about names like Klarna, Figma, and Circle Internet Group. These are major tech and digital currency companies.
Exactly. And it shows the NYSE's commitment to innovation and trust. They captured almost 70% of all the money raised from these big tech IPOs this year. That's a massive vote of confidence from these companies choosing the NYSE for their public debuts.
But the buzz doesn't stop there. There are strong reports, and more than rumors actually, that SpaceX, Elon Musk's incredible aerospace company, is getting ready for its own IPO. This is monumental, Jamie.
Oh, absolutely. SpaceX, building rockets and developing Starlink Internet, it's a company everyone is watching. They've reportedly started what's called a bake-off process, which basically means they're interviewing banks to help them with the IPO. That's a big step.
It is. While we don't know the exact timing yet, this would be one of the most anticipated market debuts in recent memory. Imagine the capital they could unlock for their ambitious space exploration and satellite internet projects. It's not just about money. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Definitely. This strong performance by the NYSE in 2025, combined with the prospect of high-profile listings like SpaceX, really signals a robust period for capital markets. It tells us that investors are feeling confident, especially in innovative, forward-looking industries.
Exactly. And the NYSE isn't stopping here. They're already looking to 2026, aiming to make U.S. capital markets even more trusted and easy to use. Great news all around for the economy and for investors.
Absolutely. What an exciting time to be following the markets.
Welcome back to Global Pulse. What a week it's been, Jamie. The international stage is truly buzzing with major developments.
You can say that again, Alex. We're covering big news on 2 very different fronts today. A significant push for peace in Europe, and sadly, escalating tensions in the Middle East.
Absolutely. Let's start with Europe, where the United States is really putting considerable pressure on European leaders. They want them to swiftly accept a peace deal for Ukraine.
Right. Washington is pushing for a U.S. brokered agreement. The goal is to secure peace and stability on the continent, especially with Russia continuing to be so assertive in the region.
Exactly. These peace talks, which are incredibly urgent, have already commenced in Berlin. We're seeing U.S. envoys, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and various European officials all involved.
Wow. It sounds like a really critical moment. The U.S. clearly sees stabilizing this region as strategically imperative, and these discussions could lead to significant shifts in Eastern Europe's geopolitical landscape.
Definitely. It's a complex diplomatic dance. But as that's happening, we've also seen a very serious and tragic incident unfold in Syria.
Yes, unfortunately, 2 American soldiers and 1 civilian interpreter were killed there. They were on a joint mission with Syrian forces near Palmyra when an ambush occurred.
And President Trump was very quick to respond to this tragic news. He swiftly attributed the ambush to an Islamic State infiltrator who was reportedly part of a local security force, and publicly vowed that the U.S. would retaliate.
That's right. This incident, which also wounded 2 members of Syria's own security force, certainly escalates tensions in the Middle East. It reaffirms the ongoing and dangerous challenges posed by extremist groups like ISIS.
You know, Jamie, the confluence of these 2 events really paints a picture of a highly volatile international stage. On one hand, President Trump is demonstrating a firm stance on diplomatic solutions to prolonged conflicts in places like Ukraine.
And on the other, he's showing a really clear, decisive stance against direct threats to American forces, vowing immediate action and retaliation in Syria. It's quite a balance.
It really is. It means leaders around the world are grappling with incredibly complex negotiations, while also needing to respond decisively to military aggressions.
Absolutely. These developments will undoubtedly shape international relations and security policies in the coming months. A lot for our listeners to keep an eye on.
Agreed. And we'll be here, as always, to keep you updated on all the global developments. That's all for this week's Global Pulse.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.